Hello and welcome back to Big Mouth and welcome to Sunday's edition of the dceu Daily. Hands up, I made a schoolboy error yesterday. Instead of clicking when I was trying to upload yesterday's video, not made for kids, I clicked made for kids, so you probably realised you couldn't comment on yesterday's video. Full apologies, won't happen again unless it does. Try it, I was rushing about yesterday. Really bad morning, so I apologise for that. So, on today's Sunday's edition of the dceu Daily, we'll be talking about many things. But first of all, let's discuss why Warner Media, AT&T, Jason Kilar and Ann Sarnoff have shown so much faith in Zack Snyder and his Justice League movie by bringing him back to Warner Brothers to finish his movie and to show his complete vision on HBO Max. So why do these people have so much faith in Zack Snyder while Kevin Sugihara and the old regime of Warner Brothers didn't? Well, it's quite interesting if we delve deeper into this, because I was listening to the the Revenge of the Fans podcast, if I remember rightly, and he was showing his best bits on his channel, and he was going back to when the Joker script leaked, Todd Phillips's Joker script. And there was all these fans saying, it's going to be a disaster. And he was trying to explain how with the Joker movie, they weren't really working on a defined script. They were literally rewriting as they were doing the movie. So basically, you could see a script saying that Joker is going to dress up in a pink skirt. But actually in the film, you never saw that. That's not what the leaked script said, by the way. But he was talking about the relevance of, bloggers. And are they a good thing for the movie industry or are they a bad thing? Now, he's a blogger himself, not one of the mainstream. He's not Access Media, the Revenge of the Fans guy, but I like him and he talks really well. But what he's saying is, all these people, Screen Rant, Collider, these are just movie fans who get to talk about movies and have access to Hollywood. But is all this over-analysis a good thing? And I think it's important to talk about this because these people are the reason that pressured Kevin Sugihara into forcing Zack Snyder off the DCEU and his Snyderverse vision, right? He was clearly on social media. And it's interesting, he was talking about the director of Mission Impossible Fallout and how he did a podcast and he was saying you can't really take any notice of the fans of the internet because they're actually only a quarter of the movie-going public. Now, that is true, but I think that it's a bit of a mistake to make to say that it's only a quarter of the people who actually go and see the movies. Listen, there is absolutely a silent majority. Now, the fans on the internet are obsessed. They crave analysis, and whatever you give them, they're never satisfied. It's like he was talking about the Jack Reacher movies he's done and how people were saying Tom Cruise is too short. How can you cast him? He cast him because they're mates, and it was Tom Cruise. Without Tom Cruise, that movie would never have happened. Anyway, a lot of the finances for that movie were put forward by Tom himself. So Tom really wanted to play Jack Reacher because he loves the books and he loves that character. But he was saying he tried to explain to fans that he got Tom to bulk up, try and make him as much as possible how Jack Reacher looks like in the books. And he was saying whatever we did, they weren't satisfied. Listen, I think it's fair for fans to say that Tom Cruise really shouldn't have been cast as Jack Reacher. When I see the Jack Reacher films, I do look at them and I think, you look at little Tom Cruise and it's a bit unbelievable that he can dispatch all these villains so easily. When you see Keanu Reeves do it, it's a little bit more believable. And I think it's about directing as well. I mean, in kind of just from the outside looking in, you would think Keanu Reeves doesn't really look like a really intimidating guy. But because of his performances in all three John Wick movies and the directing by Chad, it does look convincing. Now, my point is, because I'm going a bit off subject here, is why Sugihara removed Snyder and his vision and went for more of an MCU vision, right? It's because he was listening to bloggers, because he was paying too much attention to social media. Now, it's interesting with Zack Snyder's Justice League. Now, from the outside looking in, again, you could say that Warner Media, Jason Keeler and Ann Sarnoff have actually done the same thing. They saw the fan campaign last November. They saw all the tweets, all the trends, and they thought, we've got to do this. And there's no question about it. That's part of it. But I don't believe the reasoning, the total reasoning for bringing Zack back is because of that. Don't forget, Jim Lee played a big part on bringing Zack back, because these guys totally respect Jim. They believe he's the right man to lead DC into, the 21st century. So it's they respect him, and they respect what he said. And what he said to Jason and Ann was, listen, if we bring Zack back, he doesn't have to run the central point of the DC Extended Universe. We can create a multiverse strategy where we represent different, creators and different visions for these DC characters. And I think this really interested Jason and Ann in a marketing standpoint, where you could do absolutely anything. It's like the very exciting rumor that Nick Cage could play Superman in the Flash movie. And there are rumors that Linda Carter's Wonder Woman from the 70s or 80s could be cameoing in Andy Muschietti Flashpoint. I would say this to you. Look out for Linda Carter's Wonder Woman much earlier than that in another DC Extended Universe movie. That's all I'm going to say about that. Really excited because I love Linda Carter. She's a class act and she was a great Wonder Woman. But will she play another multiverse version? In other words, will she play Wonder Woman, or will she cameo as somebody else? Don't forget, she's already in DC in Supergirl in the Arrowverse as the president. She's the president, if I remember rightly. And so, yeah, I think what Jim did as far as Warner Media were concerned, and AT&T and Jason Keeler and Ann Sarnoff, he sold them a bigger picture. And the bigger picture is that, listen, Zack Snyder is great. He can give us something special, but he doesn't have to run the whole thing. And that's where the mistake was. Because Zack does things in a defined way, it's very difficult to convince the mainstream audience to embrace what he was doing. But there is a want, a need, and a love for the Snyderverse from us, the fans who loved what Zack did. And there's a selling point for him over on HBO Max. And now they realise that. So that we're not going to have the issues with Zack. Whether you like Zack Snyder's Justice League or not when you see it, whether you like MOS or BVS, it really doesn't matter because it's for his fans. And I believe more people in the long run will appreciate the Snyderverse, but it will never be the central point of the whole thing. So Jim Lee and Walter Hamada will run that. There will be a central cinematic kind of universe, which hasn't been created yet, but Zack will be there. Arrowverse will be there. Nick Cage's Superman. Michael Keaton's Batman. Ben Affleck's Batman. So this multiverse strategy is the reason that Jason Keeler and Sarnoff, Warner Media and AT&T were convinced to bring Zack Snyder back. And now when you look at Kevin Sugihara and why, I don't believe Kevin Sugihara hated Zack Snyder or wanted to hurt him or hurt us. I think Kevin Sugihara's mistake was when he decided to force Zack out, to, not start from scratch, not to reboot the whole franchise. He wasn't thinking clearly. He just wanted to rush Joss Whedon into finishing the movie and releasing the movie at the same time as Zack's movie would have been released. That's where the problem lied, because they all wanted to get their bonuses. This is where it all fell through. So it was always doomed to fail once Zack left, because if Zack's Justice League was released in 2017, that movie would have made around the same as BVS. So it wouldn't have been record-breaking, but a lot healthier than, what Joss Whedon did. And what you would have had was still the questions. I think, listen, this isn't going to go down well with people, but I think the whole thing and the way it played out is a blessing in disguise. Wait a minute. Think about it. If Zack just continued on what he was doing, we would never be getting this multiverse strategy. Now, Zack Snyder being the central lead for this universe would have been great for us to appreciate what he's done and what he did. But it still would have been problematic for the studio in terms of marketing and financial, and to want to compete with Disney, because Warner Media do want to compete with Disney, whether you like it or not. They want to be the top boys and girls, right? So they want to have, DC is one of the biggest franchises. The franchise has so much potential, and it proves it because it's had so many problems, but it's still there and it's still standing, as I explained the other day. Now, the guy from Revenge of the Fans made a really interesting point that he was talking about wrestling. I know nothing about wrestling, and how, the bloggers would used to knock a certain portion of wrestling just because it was fun to do so, and it got clicks and it got engagement. And I think this is what happened with the DCEU from the standpoint, as soon as they smelled what went on with Man of Steel, then BVS, they knew saying bad things about the DCEU, whether they were true or not, it didn't matter. So what he was doing was analysing Access Media, but in fact he was analysing bloggers who talk about films now. Is it a good thing? I think 5 or 6, 7 years ago, for me as a fan, Access Media was a necessity, but it's not anymore, because now you've got people like Zack Snyder telling you everything you need to know via Vero. You've got people like the director, like James Wan, the director of Aquaman, coming out and releasing stuff. Matt Reeves releasing stuff. And DC, I think what DC fandom did this year totally destroyed Access Media. Because what happened then means they don't have any access anymore. So really, the only reason we're engaging with them is for their opinions. Do I need the opinion of John Campea? Do I need him to be okay with Wonder Woman 84 being released on December the 25th and globally before that? Do I care if Scott Mendelsohn's offended because Wonder Woman 84 should have waited, and I don't agree with that? I think it was the right decision. Warner Brothers have been quite clever. They waited and waited and waited. They were never going to delay till next year. They can't. They can't have a backlog of movies on their lot that they can't release. Wonder Woman 84 had to be released this year, and they've been very fair. You can see it in theatres where available, and you can see it domestically on HBO Max. It's a win-win. Also, in terms of Wonder Woman 84, it's going to do a lot better than Tenet did, because it's going to be available in Asian countries. Now, Asian countries love DC, they love Wonder Woman, so that's really important. So I think this film may even make, my prediction is it's an ambitious prediction, and people think I'm mad, because obviously there's not many theatres open in America, which does hurt things, but I think this film could make a lot closer to $1 billion than people think, let alone how much WB are going to make from the extra subscriptions on HBO Max. So I think this film is going to do quite well. But Access Media will come back again. People like Scott Mendelsohn, because of their agenda, will come in and say it's failed in the US. Ultimately, in terms of domestic box office, Wonder Woman 84 probably won't do too well, because most of the theatres are closed. But the way Access Media will sell it is it's a failure. So it's very important you look at that. But I've never really focused on domestic box office. I've always focused on global. So, for example, Tenet did really well. It just didn't do well enough to make the money that they wanted from it. But Wonder Woman 84 is different, because I know that Christopher Nolan is a very popular filmmaker. But, capes are the thing now, like the cowboys were 30, 40 years ago, shoot 'em ups. Like your Lethal Weapons and your Die Hards were a thing in the 80s and 90s, right? Capes, it's all about capes now. Everyone is hungry to see this film. And this is why I feel that this will be a success. And if Wonder Woman 84 is a success, then that is amazing, because it helps theatres. It gives the industry confidence in theatres again. It means they'll be more confident about not pushing these films back. And actually, a Marvel writer-director has been very glowing about WB's announcement of releasing this film. So this is quite interesting. Now, this is from Xavier Ilias. Wow, he's Greek like me. Well, I'm Greek Cypriot. It's about time we had some Greek Cypriots out there, right? Anyway, Wonder Woman 1984's HBO Max release is a brave move, says Joe Russo. Joe Russo made remarks about the upcoming HBO Max release of Wonder Woman 1984, stating that it was a brave move for director Patty Jenkins to make. Well, by the way, it was never Patty's decision. This is a big difference between Patty Jenkins and Christopher Nolan. Christopher Nolan's production company is involved with Tenet. He made it very clear to Warner Brothers, Warner Media and AT&T, if you push this out exclusively on demand, we won't work together again. They didn't have 100% freedom of choice. This is different. They'll go to her, they'll talk to her, they'll have a debate, they'll have a discussion, but ultimately she doesn't have the power to pressure them into making the decisions that she wants. So let's give this a read. Joe Russo made remarks about the upcoming HBO Max release of Wonder Woman 1984, stating that it was a brave move for director Patty Jenkins to make. Russo, along with his brother Anthony, directed several films in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, including Avengers Infinity War, Avengers Endgame. Wonder Woman 84 is the sequel to 2017's film, taking place several decades after the original Wonder Woman. Jenkins returns as director, along with co-writing screenplay, and Gal Gadot reprises her role as the titular heroine, after portraying her in Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice and Justice League, and the original Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman 1984 was originally set to be released in December of 2019, before eventually being pushed back to June of 2020. However, as the COVID-19 pandemic began to spread around the world, the film was pushed back to August and then again to December. As the chances of theatres reopening in areas like New York City and Los Angeles diminished, as COVID-19 cases continued to spread, it became clear that 1984 would not have the luxury of playing in as many theatres as a film of that size would need to make a profit. Instead of opting for another delay, Warner Brothers decided to release Wonder Woman 1984 on HBO Max on the same day as its theatrical debut. And by the way, there will be quite a few theatres open in America. Now, New York and Los Angeles are an issue. We'll see what happens there. But I think you may even get some reopening at the end of December. We will see what happens there. In an interview with Collider, Joe Russo spoke about the move to send 1984 straight to streaming, stating that the decision was incredibly brave and bold. Russo deferred to Jenkins' own statement about the release, saying that he understood how, at a certain point, an artist knows it's time to share their work with the outside world, despite less than ideal circumstances. Russo also went on to recognise that a simultaneous release of a film, both digitally and theatrically, is most likely the future of the business. Absolutely, Joe. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a detriment to one medium or the other. Exactly, Joe. Common sense. Check out his full statement below. This is interesting. I think Patty Jenkins said it best. She made something that she put an incredible amount of love and joy into, and now she's ready to share it with the world. I think it's incredibly brave and bold of her as a filmmaker. I do think that this is the future of the business. There can be room for both digital and theatrical, and in fact, both could perhaps enhance each other's business and experience. Joe, you're an intelligent man. Well done. This is absolutely spot on. This is what I've been saying for months when they were putting this film and other films back. And you know, Disney should be thinking this way about Black Widow. They should have done the same thing. But they're gutless and they're greedy, by the way. Wonder Woman 1984 isn't the first blockbuster film to get a simultaneous digital and theatrical release. In 2020, Disney's Mulan was released in both theatres and on Disney Plus back in September. Although Disney has been tight-lipped about the concrete numbers on viewership for the film, some estimate that its domestic gross was larger than Tenet's, which only received the theatrical release. You know, obviously, because it was available on, on a streaming platform as well. So domestic gross was larger than Tenet, which only received the theatrical release. Sacha Baron Cohen's Barack subsequent movie film was released straight to digital on Amazon Prime, and Pixar's new film Soul will also release directly onto Disney Plus. By the way, Borat 2 made more money than Mulan. Just think about that. No cinema release. Exclusive on Prime Video. Think about that. And let me tell you where greedy Disney, made a mistake. And, AT&T and Warner Media have seen this. Mulan you had to pay for on Disney Plus, right? At Christmas, it's going to be on there for free. If you're a subscriber, like me and you, we can watch it. So what Warner Media have done is brilliant. Release this film in as many theatres as you can. Make the movie theatre chains happy that you're supporting them. But say, you know what? We're a business here. We have to put this on HBO Max in the United States because there's not enough theatres open. So everybody's happy. And they're not charging people extra to watch Wonder Woman 84. It's a great move. It supports movie theatres and it supports themselves as well. Judging by the relative success of other digitally released films in 2020, sending Wonder Woman 84 to HBO Max seems like the best move that could be made under the given circumstances. While many may argue that the release will hurt theatres, no. You can't argue with that because it's being released in theatres as well. Yeah, you could say listen, you can't see it globally on HBO Max. You can only see it in the States. And I know geeks and nerds. There's no way they're just going to sit there and watch it on HBO Max unless they're one of these alt left. I ain't going on movie theatre. I don't want to infect anyone. Look, most geeks and nerds will see this on HBO Max in the States and in movie theatres where available. Anyway, even more, there's a really good chance that if Warner Brothers didn't have that option, they would have been forced to delay the movie again, which they couldn't afford to do, by the way. Leaving theatres will no big draws for months. Because of that, the decision to release the film this way was even supported by AMC. From Jenkins' perspective, it must be hard knowing that not everyone will see her film on the big screen. Like Russo stated, it is unquestionably a brave move, and hopefully that bravery pays off. And Wonder Woman 1984 has a successful release. I couldn't agree more, Screen Rant. And Elias. By the way, fellow Greek, I'm a Greek Cypriot, pleased to meet you. It's about time we see all minorities represented, not just people of colour. I love you, people of colour. I'm glad you're the most represented people in media, TV and film, but we need to go as well. Okay, so yes, that's that. Wonder Woman 84 being released in December is the right move. And oh boy, I can't wait till I can review this movie. And basically, be careful with my channel, because as soon as I go and see this film for a second time, we are giving it here on Big Mouth a spoiler review. And I can't wait to unleash my opinions. Yes, Scott Edwards has another question for me. Be like Scott. Tag me on Twitter @MoviesTVMad and ask me any question. I'll answer it for you within reason, of course. Any video suggestions, topics, articles. So let's see what Scott's question is for today. @MoviesTVMad, here's my question for tomorrow's DCEU Daily. Where do you think the core narrative of the DCEU is headed? I know we're getting the Snyder Cut, but will we get another Justice League movie? How will Shazam, Black Adam and Harley tie into everything? Right, I'm going to have to refer back to that. That's a lot, isn't it? But it's a really good question, by the way, Scott. So thanks for that. I like good questions that I can get my teeth into. So what did he say? He said, where do you think the core narrative? Yeah, the core narrative for me is kind of simple. Well, it's not actually. It's a bit complicated, but I'll try and bring it down for you. So basically, I believe we're definitely going to get another Justice League movie. So we're getting Zack Snyder's Justice League movie. That's totally different. We will get Zack Snyder's Justice League series continuing over on HBO Max, but we will have a centralized Justice League. But it's going to be different, Scott, and let me tell you why. This is not going to be a Justice League of one universe. Oh, no. I can tell you right here and right now, because I do have access, and I can tell you, J.J. Abrams is planning a multiverse strategy Justice League movie. So how that works is you've got Batman, Ben Affleck's Batman. You've got Robert Pattinson's Batman. You've got Brandon Routh's Superman. You've got Henry Cavill's Superman. J.J. Abrams' central cinematic Superman. People like that. And you've got Shazam, Harley. Now, in terms of Harley and Shazam fitting in, right now, Margot Robbie's future as Harley Quinn is in doubt. Birds of Prey didn't work out for her. The studio weren't very happy with what she did and what Christina Hodgson did. And as you know, she's going over to Disney to do a girl power Pirates of the Caribbean. Proof that her and Warner Brothers are not on good terms. And I believe potentially that she could be leaving the DCEU, which means they'll have to pluck out another version of Harley from the multiverse. Now, I'm kind of quite comfortable with that. I know there are many, there are many Margot Robbie Harley Quinn fans. I'm one of them. But it looks to me, the decisions she's been making in terms of, driving her existence in the DCEU in terms of identity politics, that was a big mistake. And she's taking that train to another studio, which tells me after James Gunn's The Suicide Squad, she could be done. Now, in terms of Shazam's role is kind of quite straightforward. There's a trilogy planned. We've seen the first movie. We're going to see Shazam 2 in 2023. A long wait because of this damn pandemic. And the ultimate thing that's going to happen in Shazam 3 is Shazam will finally fight Black Adam. So that universe is about these two mega running trains ultimately meeting face to face. And that's the whole idea of that trilogy. But don't forget, it's not just a trilogy because we've already got Black Adam. We're going to get Black Adam sequels. So they're going to meet in Shazam 3. So that's Shazam's role in that. So the whole narrative is the whole future narrative of the entire DCEU, the multiverse strategy that is, of all these different Earths and universes and movies and DC franchises, present and past, are all going to meet together in one central Justice League to fight the biggest threat possible. Now, I don't know what that threat is. Obviously, over on HBO Max, they're fighting Darkseid. But of course, J.J. Abrams could be planning a bigger threat. Well, what's bigger than Darkseid, Mick? Brainiac. Brainiac could be the threat of all threats. Just think about what Brainiac is, what he can do, and what he represents. So that, Scott, my friend, is the future of the DCEU. A central Justice League that's part of this multiverse strategy that Jim Lee and Walter Hamada are putting into place. A Justice League of superheroes from different Earths. Now, I don't know about you, but that damn well excites me. And that puts the MCU in a hell of a lot of trouble. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for watching. I promise you'll be able to comment today. I will hit not for kids. Anyway, at least I tried it. It's an experiment that didn't really pay off. I've got about 30 views. Actually, that's my average view count anyway. But I hope you enjoyed today's DCEU Daily. Please comment down below. Like, share and subscribe. Please tag me and follow me over on Twitter at MoviesTVMad. And I will be back tomorrow with even more DCEU Daily. See you again soon.